I'm V.J. Comai, and I'm the city arborist for Burlington. I've been with the city since 2018, so about 7.5 years. Right now we're in the neighborhood out at Appletree Point in the Strathmore Homeowners Association, where our crew is in the process of removing the remaining ash trees that were planted in this neighborhood about 35 years ago. Citywide, the city of Burlington, our crew manages about close to 14,000 trees citywide. That is all the trees within right-of-ways between the sidewalk and the road throughout the city, as well as in all our managed park spaces and 3 city-owned cemeteries. When I came to the city in 2018, about 9% of our total trees citywide were ash trees, either green or white ash. We are now facing how to manage the emerald ash borer in the city. So the emerald ash borer is an invasive insect that was first brought to the United States nearly 20 years ago. Believed to have come here from Asia, thought to have come in on wooden packing crates or in wooden packing material, and it came to the Detroit, Michigan areas where it was first found, and over the last 20 years it's spread across the country slowly through the movement of firewood, lumber, just hitching a ride however it could. So when I came to the city, we knew that the arrival of emerald ash borer was going to be imminent, and so we needed to come up with a plan with how we were going to deal with that. There are basically a few options. We could remove the ash preemptively. We could treat the ash, all or some of the ash, at a cost to the city, a treatment that has to be done with an injection of an insecticide every 2 years for the life of the tree. Or we could start replanting with knowing that we'd eventually be removing the existing ash trees. Knowing that city budgets are very volatile, we can't count on what we have for funds from year to year. I felt that the best option would be the eventual removal of the ash trees citywide. And so, using our inventory software system, we identified where all the ash were in the city, in park spaces and especially in right-of-ways. And we went through and looked and found all the areas where we had existing ash, where there was space in and amongst them to start planting new trees as eventual replacements for the ash. And we started out here in the Appletree Point neighborhood for a couple of reasons. We had a lot of nice space in between the existing ash, and we actually have considerably wider green belts here than we do in a lot of the other parts of the city. And not only that, but about 25% of our green belt ash existed in this one neighborhood. When this development was built, I think it was in the early 80s, the developer essentially lined both sides of almost every street in here with green ash. The story goes that they were actually transplanted out of the wild here from the edge of the woodlands that surround the development. So we came in here, I believe it was 6 years ago now, or I guess this would be the 7th growing season, and we started planting in and amongst the ash. And we planted a wide diversity of species. I think we used about 20 different species here, and we alternated them. And behind me here, you can see the result. This is an elm that was planted about 7 years ago. It's about 6-inch in diameter now and probably approaching 20 to 25 feet. And when we look back down the street here, all the ash have been removed on this stretch of Nottingham Drive. And on the left-hand side here, we got a wide diversity of species. So thinking long-term, this is what we want to see in an urban forest. We want a great diversity of species that will insulate us from any future species-specific pest or disease. I mean, you think we would have learned our lesson with Dutch elm disease, which was brought to the United States in early 1930s and decimated all the American elms. Burlington at one time was graced by hundreds of American elms, far more than the ash that we have now. And they all succumbed to the Dutch elm disease and had to be replaced with other species. So in preemptively planting everywhere we could in and amongst our ash, to date we have replanted new trees for about 70% of our greenbelt ash citywide. And now as we continue to remove ash throughout the city, we're going back and filling in the gaps where we didn't have the opportunity to plant ahead of time. It's pretty dramatic when we remove big trees from a neighborhood, but we're finding overall support citywide is behind us. You know, when we're managing the urban forest, we're really thinking long term. It's not about today, it's about the next generation. By planting a diversity of species and taking this approach, we're also diversifying the age class of our trees citywide. So you don't want all your trees in the city maturing at the same time. So it's good to have a diversity of species and a diversity of age class. That makes for a healthy urban forest for the long term. So we're pretty pleased with the results of what we've done. We're continuing the work. Fortunately, you know, we have a full-time crew, a certified arborist. We have a full complement of equipment, which has allowed us to do this work in-house. You know, I just didn't feel like for the long term, it made sense to be treating any of our ash trees, any percentage of our ash trees citywide. And fortunately, I had not made that commitment to do even a small number because the city's now facing, you know, some serious financial issues and tight budgets. And had we committed to treating trees a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have the funding now for the follow-up treatment that would be due. So we're moving ahead with our plan. We've done a lot of outreach to the public through various forums and knocking on doors and having conversations, and it seems to be the right approach. So in anticipation of the emerald ash borer, we knew it was going to get here eventually. We also went on a very ambitious tree planting campaign citywide, even where we didn't have existing ash. So, you know, over the last 6 years, we've not only been preemptively planting replacements for our existing ash, but we've also been going ward by ward, street by street, and filling available spaces within our right-of-ways. We've added a lot of trees to our managed park spaces, knowing there was going to be a significant canopy loss citywide. So since I've been here in 7.5 years, we've planted close to 2,200 trees citywide. So, you know, our despite the loss of the ash, our urban forest is still growing, and looking ahead, it's going to be healthier for the long term, I'm confident. So along this street here, we can look at some of the species that we planted when we initially came through here several years ago and planted between the ash. So we looked at an elm back there. We've got a tulip tree here. We've got a Turkish filbert. We've got a red oak, and then a maple, then another elm. There's some river birch in here. There's sycamore, a couple different species of oaks. There's horse chestnut, just a wide diversity of species. Honey locust. On Westminster Drive over here, all the ash have been removed from both sides of this street. And we really have some sizable trees going here. I mean, further down the street, they're already up to the height of the lamp post. They're up to 6 to 7 inch in diameter. And now that the ash are gone, it's sort of like when you manage a natural forest and do some thinning and you release, you provide more light and less competition for the younger trees. And I think we're really going to see these trees take off over the next couple years and provide some nice canopy along this street and throughout the neighborhood. So long term, again, a good diversity of species, diversity of age class, and a healthier urban forest for the long term. So in this neighborhood and in some other locations throughout the city, some residents have opted to adopt an ash tree within the greenbelt and to take on the cost of treating that tree to retain it. The city does not manage that. They work with a private contractor. They pay for the treatment, but the understanding is that they are still city-owned trees. And where we have planted new trees as eventual replacements for the ash, at some point we reserve the right to come in and remove the ash to make room for the new trees that we planted. So we're okay with that approach. I mean, ultimately, if the treatment is good for 2 years and then has to be redone, so if we can buy another 2 to 4 years for some of these younger trees to get better established and get some more growth to them, it's to our advantage as well. But the long-term goal is, to diversify these neighborhoods and and not be cutting down the trees, the variety of species that we planted, in favor of leaving the ash.
I'm Steve from Town Meeting TV. Nice to meet you,
Hi.
Lori. And you are a teacher from,
I was the principal at CP Smith years
Nice.
ago.
and you live here on Nottingham Lane.
I live on Nottingham Lane.
And we were talking before we put you on tape here a little bit about the city arborist and the city arborists of the past.
Oh my gosh, we just have loved the arborists in this city. They would come to CP Smith on Arbor Day and plant a tree every year. We got to know them. And if you look around this beautiful city, you can see the quality of the arborists that we have had through the years, and it's just been incredible.